The mirror wasn't supposed to be there. I found it buried behind old tarps and a rusted lawnmower in the farthest corner of the shed behind the house I just inherited. It was leaning against the back wall, shrouded in a thick sheet of cobwebs, like it had been waiting. I didn't remember seeing it during the walkthrough with the realtor. And the previous owner, my Uncle Henry, never mentioned anything about a mirror. But there it was, 7 feet tall, narrow, framed in what looked like blackened wood, carved with strange, swirling patterns that reminded me of knots or roots twisting into themselves. I cleared away the dust and cobwebs with the edge of my sleeve, revealing the glass underneath. The mirror didn't reflect me. At first, I thought the glass was just dirty, maybe too fogged to catch my image clearly. But no matter where I stood, how I tilted my head, how bright the sunlight was pouring in from the half-rotted roof, my reflection wasn't there. The shed was the back wall, a mower, a hanging rake, but not me. I stepped back. Maybe it was a two-way mirror, but then who would install that here in an old, crumbling tool shed in the middle of nowhere? It didn't make any sense. I reached out, hesitantly, and touched the glass. It was cold, not just cool. Cold. Ice on skin cold, like it had been pulled from a freezer. I recoiled, staring at the film my fingers left behind. 5 prints, clear as day, melting slightly into the frost. Something shifted behind me. I spun around. Nothing. Silence. Then I looked back and something had changed. In the mirror, someone was standing in the back corner of the shed. Not me, it was a man. Older, heavyset, wearing a pale blue button-down shirt and khakis. He was facing the wall, unmoving. I turned my head quickly, no one was there. The corner was empty, but in the mirror, the man remained. I blinked, took a cautious step closer. His shoulders trembled like he was sobbing, and then so slow it barely registered. He turned his head, just slightly, revealing one bloodshot eye. He looked straight at me. I stumbled backward and slammed the shed door shut, heart slamming against my ribs. I ran back to the house and didn't look back. That night, I dreamed of him, standing in the same corner, weeping. Only now he was closer than before. His hand pressed against the glass from the inside, smearing it red. I woke up gasping, covered in sweat, the sound of sobs still ringing in my ears. The next morning, I told myself it was just stress. Fatigue. My mind playing tricks on me after the move. New place, old house, weird shadows, nerves fraying at the edges. I avoided the shed for 3 days, but I couldn't stop thinking about the mirror. It kept pulling at me, whispering just out of earshot. So on the 4th day, I went back. The door creaked open like it was reluctant to let me in. The smell of mildew and old wood hit me harder than before. The mirror was still there, still dark, still tall, still impossibly cold. But this time I came prepared. I brought my phone, turned on the camera, started recording. I waved my hand in front of the mirror. Nothing. The shed was there, but not me. Then I checked the video. My reflection appeared on the phone screen. Confused, pale, anxious, but there, my body, my face, in real time. So the mirror wasn't broken. It was choosing not to reflect me. It wasn't defective. It was deliberate. I looked again harder, deeper, and then he returned. A man, same clothes, same tears. He turned faster this time, staring right at me. I whispered, "Who are you?" His lips moved in the mirror, but no sound came out. Then he raised one shaking hand and pointed, not at the wall, at me. I kept the door locked, shoved an old lawn chair in front of it, and tried to forget the man in the mirror, his shaking hand, the way he pointed at me like he knew me. But dreams don't follow doors or locks. Each night, they got worse. Now there were others. An old woman with half her face burned away. whispering in a language I didn't understand. A boy with a crushed bicycle helmet and hollow sockets where his eyes should have been. A middle-aged woman in a wedding dress, soaked in mud. Her veil tangled with what looked like worms. They all stood behind the man in the blue shirt, and they stared. Not at the shed, not at the mirror, at me. When I woke up screaming, shaking, soaked in sweat, I realized something terrifying. They were getting closer. Each night they moved forward. Just a step, just an inch. But closer, always closer. I needed answers. I dug into my Uncle Henry's things. Boxes he left behind. Files stacked in the attic. Old journals scribbled in messy cursive. I didn't know what I was looking for, just something, anything, to make sense of what I saw. And I found something. Tucked inside a weathered manila folder was a newspaper clipping. Yellowed with age. Local man dies in mirror accident. July 17th, 96. A man was found dead in his shed yesterday, after reportedly falling into a large mirror he was restoring. Authorities described the death as bizarre, with injuries inconsistent with a simple fall. Neighbors say the man, Peter W. Langley, had recently spoken of seeing the dead in the mirror. He leaves behind a wife and son. My heart nearly stopped. Langley. That was my uncle's wife's maiden name. Peter Langley was her father. I found a photo of him in one of the old albums. Same blue shirt, same heavy-set frame, same tired, wet eyes. The man in the mirror. I stared at the photo for a long time. Then at the clipping. Then at the shed door. Pieces clicked together like glass shards finding their edge. This mirror had killed before, and now it was showing me the victim. No, the dead. That night, I waited until after sunset. I brought a flashlight, a camera, and a crowbar. If this thing was haunted, cursed, whatever, I wasn't going to wait for it to reach me first. The shed groaned as I opened the door. Inside, it felt colder than it should have. My breath fogged in the air. The mirror stood still, waiting. I turned on the flashlight and pointed it at the glass. They were there. All of them. Langley, the boy, the bride, the old woman. Lined up like they'd been waiting their turn, and now they weren't still. Langley stepped forward, and so did the others. Perfectly synchronized. My heart thundered. Then the boy tilted his head and raised his hand, pressed his palm against the glass. His mouth opened, and this time, so did Langley's. I couldn't hear the words, but I didn't need to. I knew what they were saying. You're next. I dropped the flashlight. It rolled across the floor, spinning shadows around the shed. The mirror flickered. Their eyes followed the light, then snapped back to me. I turned and ran. Again. This time I didn't sleep. Didn't dream. But in the reflection of every window, every dark TV screen, I saw movement, just out of reach, just behind me. I tried covering the mirrors. I tried smashing one, but when I looked back, the crack was gone, like it had healed, like it wanted to stay. That morning, I received a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was a single piece of paper. 5 words, written in what looked like charcoal. Don't look into the mirror. I crumpled the note, tossed it in the sink, and set it on fire. But the smoke, it didn't smell like paper. It smelled like rot, like something dead. Watching, waiting to be seen again. I stopped going outside. Every window reflected something I didn't trust. My phone camera glitched whenever I accidentally turned it toward glass. Even the television, when turned off, felt like a portal. Like their eyes were behind it, pressing against the screen. 3 nights ago, I boarded up the bathroom mirror. Last night, the boards were torn off. From the inside, I didn't sleep. I didn't blink, 'cause I knew what would happen if I did. The man in the mirror, Langley, was no longer weeping. He was watching, and now he was smiling. Today, I called someone. Not a priest, not a psychic. My sister, Emily. I hadn't spoken to her in 3 years, not since the incident we don't talk about. But I needed someone to tell me I wasn't insane. Someone to look into that mirror and see what I saw. She came over reluctantly. Said I sounded worse than usual. Said my voice shook too much. Said, "You're not drinking again, are you?" I told her no. We went to the shed together. When she saw the mirror, she stopped cold. "Where did you get that?" she asked. "Uncle Henry," I said. She didn't move. "I've seen it before," she whispered. "In Mom's attic. When we were kids." My blood ran cold. She wasn't supposed to remember. I barely remembered. But suddenly, I did. A flicker. A day in summer. 8 years old. Emily crying. A dark attic. A mirror wrapped in tarp. My hand on the glass. A face staring back that wasn't mine. A scream. Our mother locking the attic door. Telling us never to go back. "You said you forgot." I told her. "I lied," she said. "Because I still dream about it. The woman in the veil. The baby with no face. The whispers." We stared at the mirror, and this time it showed both of us. Emily's reflection appeared beside mine, and standing behind her, Mom, dead 13 years. Looking pale, hollow, smiling, Emily collapsed. Screamed. Ran. She didn't stop at the house. She didn't say goodbye. I stayed, because there was something else in the bottom corner of the mirror. Faint, almost hidden, was a symbol. I'd seen it before. On the inside of Uncle Henry's journal, a spiral made of thorns. Below it, scrawled in faded ink, reflections cannot lie, but they do warn. At night, I dug up the journal. One page had been torn out, ripped violently from the spine. I found it tucked between the boards of his old desk drawer. The final entry, it's not a mirror. It's a gate. Every soul it shows has unfinished business. Every face is a debt unpaid. They are not trapped. They're gathering. I reread it twice, then a third time, because at the bottom, in shaky writing, was a list of names. Langley, J. Martin, E. Caldwell, Marcus Frey. Elijah Romes, Emily, my sister. And the final name, mine. I stared at it until the ink blurred with my tears. Then, under the list, one more line etched in a way that didn't look like ink at all. It looked scratched and desperate, violent. It showed me how it wants me. I couldn't stop shaking. My name, my sister's, all listed like we were waiting our turn to be claimed. The journal didn't lie. The mirror was counting down. I had to know why us? Why now? I dug deeper into Uncle Henry's past, called old neighbors, tracked down county records, even visited the public library 2 towns over. Most people barely remembered him, except one, Mrs. Gaines. She lived next door for 35 years. "You're his nephew?" she asked over the phone. Her voice trembled. I thought that house was empty for good. I asked her if she remembered anything about the mirror. There was a long silence. Then she said, "It took my son." I drove over immediately. She was old, frail, but her eyes sharp as needles. She didn't make small talk, just led me into a cramped room lined with dusty books and yellowed photos. She showed me a picture. A boy, maybe 10, smiling beside a younger Uncle Henry. In the corner, the mirror. It was wrapped in cloth, but the outline was unmistakable. He brought it home after his wife died. She said it was part of her father's estate. That it was important. I didn't ask questions. Henry was always strange, but kind. "What happened to your son?" I asked. Her fingers tightened on the photo. Jeremy started seeing things, talking to people that weren't there. He said the mirror showed him a woman with no mouth, that she called to him when it got dark. Then one morning, I woke up and he was gone. My stomach churned. No sign of forced entry. No footprints. Just his pajamas on the floor. In front of the shed, she looked at me, and I swear her voice dropped 2 octaves. Your uncle tried to destroy it. Burn it. Smash it. Bury it. It always came back. I left with more questions than answers. At night, Emily called me. Her voice was raw, frantic. She's in my mirror. She whispered, Mom. She talks now. But it's not her voice. I told her to leave. Come to my house. We'd figure it out. She refused. She says I have to stay. That if I leave, you'll be next. And she screamed. The line went dead. I drove through the night. Her house was dark. Quiet. I kicked in the front door. Inside. The air felt wrong. Heavy. Like breathing underwater. I called her name. No answer. And then I saw it. A message smeared across her hallway mirror. 3 words. You were warned. Unconscious, breathing, but shallow. The mirror above her dresser had cracked down the middle, but on the surface, it still reflected them. Langley, the bride, the boy, and someone new. A child I didn't recognize. And it shifted. The image warped, melted into a reflection of me, but I wasn't standing there. I was on the other side. Smiling, I took a step back. The mirror in me took a step forward, hand pressed against the glass, matching mine, then it whispered, You can't outrun what you see. I smashed the mirror with a lamp. Glass exploded across the room. My reflection vanished, but the cold didn't. It lingered. Emily began to stir. She looked at me and said, She told me a secret. What secret? I asked. She turned her head slowly. That we've been dead since the attic. We've been dead since the attic. Her voice wasn't hers. It came out slower, thicker, like it had to push through her throat. I stepped back, pulse thudding in my ears. Emily, what are you talking about? You're alive. I saved you. She smiled, but it wasn't relief. It wasn't gratitude. It was knowing. No, she said, You woke me up. Then she closed her eyes and didn't speak again. I sat there in silence, watching her breathe. The rise and fall of her chest, each breath a little more shallow, a little less human. I drove her to the hospital. They ran every test they could. Nothing came back wrong. She was alive. But they couldn't wake her up again. They called it a coma. I called it something else. Possession curse, I didn't know. But I remembered what Uncle Henry had written. Reflections cannot lie, but they do warn. What if the mirror wasn't showing the dead? What if it was creating them? One name at a time. I returned to the shed with gasoline. No more hesitation. I poured it along the base, across the floor, up the legs of the workbench. The mirror glimmered as I worked, but the surface stayed still. No ghosts, no shadows, just my reflection. Tired, hollow, afraid. I lit the match, tossed it in. Flames roared up, licking the walls, swallowing the mirror's frame in seconds. It screamed, not from the fire! From inside, dozens of voices, male, female, children screamed through the glass. A sound pierced the air, rattled my bones. I fell to my knees outside the shed, covering my ears as the structure groaned and collapsed. A fire department came. Neighbors gathered. Sirens. Smoke. No one asked what I was burning, and I didn't offer it. I thought that would be the end, but it wasn't. Because the next night, my bathroom mirror fogged over during my shower, and in the steam, written in dripping lines, were the words I remember. I smashed it, bought a replacement. That one cracked on its own. No matter what I did, new house, new mirrors, new life, they always found me. The reflections, they don't need the old glass anymore. They're in every screen, every lens, every surface that holds an echo, and each one whispers the same thing. You let us burn. But here's the thing. I remember the attic now. I remember Emily screaming. I remember seeing my own body lying on the floor, not moving. I remember waking up years later in Uncle Henry's house, alone. No explanation. No memory of how I got there. And I remember the mirror whispering, even back then, as I brushed my teeth in the cracked bathroom glass. You're not who you think you are. Maybe Emily was right. Maybe we have been dead since that day. Maybe we're not real at all. Just echoes, reflections, trapped on the wrong side of the glass. Watching. Waiting. Waiting to be seen. I moved again. Different state. Different name. I don't keep mirrors in the house anymore. I cover the screens when I sleep. Avoid photos. Smash anything that shows my reflection for too long. Because sometimes it changes. Subtly. One blink too late. One breath too shallow. One movement that isn't mine. But here's the thing. Lately, I've been dreaming of people I've never met. A boy with stitches for lips. A woman who bleeds shadows. A man who only walks backward. They're waiting behind the glass. And I think they're not just watching anymore. They're organizing. Because last night, I saw something different. Not just their faces, but mine dozens of me, lining an endless hallway of mirrors. All moving in sync, all staring out. And each of them whispered, "You never left. I woke up screaming." There was blood on the pillow, a handprint on the inside of my bedroom window. My reflection, still standing after I looked away. I don't know how much longer I can hold on. Every day feels thinner. Like I'm made of light bouncing off the surface of something real. Like I'm just residue. I visited Emily one last time. She's still unresponsive, but her eyes were open, and her lips were moving. No sound. So I leaned in, closer, and I heard it. Let it in. I stumbled back, but her hand gripped mine. A type of cold, hollow, like bone. And I understood then. This was never about the mirror. The glass was just a door. The real prison is us. Our minds. Our bodies. Our belief that we're the ones looking through the glass. Not the other way around. But we're not. We're what's trapped inside. You've seen your reflection today, haven't you? In your phone. Your car window. Your computer screen. Did you notice it blink before you did? Did it smile when you didn't? And it's too late. It's already watching you. And when it moves, when it finally reaches through, just remember one thing. You were warned. If you're still alive after hearing this, leave a sign, a comment. A shadow behind your screen. We'll see it. We always do. And maybe, just maybe, we'll wave back.